Hello and welcome. My name is Valerie Burke and I'm the Assistant Dean for Graduate Student Services. I am thrilled to welcome you to our 10th annual Rebel Grad Slam 3-minute thesis competition. The 3-minute thesis, or 3MT competition model, was developed at the University of Queensland in Australia in 2008. It spread to other universities in Australia and New Zealand in 2009 and 2010. By 2011, the 3MT competition phenomenon had spread across the globe, and now more than 600 universities from more than 65 countries hold these competitions. In 2014, UNLV held our first 3MT, the Rebel Grad Slam, and this year it is our 10th annual Research Rumble. The 3MT is a fantastic opportunity for students to learn how to convey who they are, what they study, and why they study it, how they study it, and what they found or expect to find, and why it matters to an audience of folks who are mostly outside their field. It's an opportunity to build public speaking and communication skills and to polish one's elevator speech describing what they study as graduate students. It's worth noting that our slammers come from all over campus and from a wide range of disciplines. Some are first-year students, some are in their final year. Some slammers are master students, some are advanced doctoral candidates. It is a diverse pool of over 90 graduate students competing here this week. So today we have a group of UNLV graduate students have been randomly assigned to compete in this specific preliminary session. Each will present their research in 3 minutes or less, using one slide and no props. We will introduce each student and then start the timer. If a student goes over 3 minutes, they will be eliminated from the competition. Slammers are encouraged to pace themselves and use their 3 minutes without going over. It's not easy, but it's what the 3MT is all about. So slammers, please make sure to keep your microphone on mute and video off when other competitors are presenting. Only turn on your microphone and video when you are presenting. Please be sure to stay for the entire session, even after you are done presenting. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat in between presenters. Please do not use the chat during anyone's presentations as it may be distracting. You may sit or stand while presenting. You only have 2 minutes and 59 seconds and one chance to compete. After I introduce you, our Zoom host will advance to your presentation slide. You may then begin your presentation. Once you begin speaking, we will start the timer, and you will not be able to restart your presentation unless something beyond your control occurs. You will then be able to see the Zoom timer on your screen on the upper right-hand side. Please don't stop unless I stop you. And don't worry though, if you lose Wi-Fi or are disconnected, please just join back in. We will wait a minute for you and then go on to the next presenter. If that happens, you can redo your presentation at the end. And please remember that you may not read your presentation or use any notes on your screen or in front of you. Now let's turn our attention to the scoring for this Research Rumble. The judges will be assessing the competitors based on metrics, which total 24 possible points in 4 major areas: comprehension, content, engagement, and communication. Each judge will independently score each competitor. Judges will not penalize competitors for unanticipated disruptions that are beyond the slammer's control. At the end of the presentations, we will tally the judges' combined scores for each grad slammer and announce the winners right here live. The top 3 in this session will advance to the semifinals. I'd like to note that this round of the competition is happening live in Zoom and will be simultaneously aired live on the Graduate College's YouTube channel. And to give you a sense of this year's competition, over 90 students are competing in the preliminary rounds. Around 36 will move on to semifinals, and only about 9 will advance to the finals at 4 p.m. this Friday, December 1st. So without further ado, let me introduce the judges, and then we will go on to our 3MT Research Rumble. We have a set of distinguished judges in today's session. We have Lisa Nicholas from the Division of Health Sciences, Jared Geiger from Greenspun College, Christine Clark from the College of Education, Susie Scarl from Libraries, Robert Rippey, Office of Economic Development, Javier Rodriguez, College of Sciences, and Evgeny Cheryshin from Lee Business School. Welcome and thank you for serving on our panel of judges today. So we are ready to begin the competition with our first presenter. Hector. If you could join me on screen, Hector. Great, I see you.
Hello, can everyone hear me okay?
Sounds great. I'm now going to turn it over to you, Hector.
Cool, thank you. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about my project and how you want to just go slow, how the hibernating tenrec can control protein degradation when they actually can't control protein degradation. Now, typically, when you think of a hibernator, you think of a cold animal, uh, in essentially having a ton of energetic savings to survive throughout the winter. But we have a problem where the tenrec can actually hibernate, and that's the little guy down here in the corner. Presumably, to save a lot of energy, you have very little protein synthesis. Now, if you're making few proteins, you cannot be degrading them either. You cannot be breaking them down. If you are breaking down the little proteins you do have, essentially the cell will die, and we want to prevent that. So we want to look at how the Tenrec actually does this. And the way anybody would degrade proteins or break them down is you have your protein and you have a tag that gets added onto your protein. And the more tags you have, the more likely the protein will be degraded. And the tag, we call it ubiquitin. But we can see in the graph right next to that, in the middle here, we see that proteins are degraded at a relatively high amount at warm temperatures. And as we get to cold temperatures, we see that proteins are no longer being broken down. But we can see that hibernating tenrecs, they actually hibernate at moderate to warm temperatures, and that's in the blue shaded region where proteins are still being degraded. So that's kind of an issue where they're not controlling protein degradation at that point. So maybe they're controlling the tag, but we see at the graph at the far right that they actually maintain a relatively high level of tagging. So they're still tagging these proteins to break them down. And the graph at the bottom left here, we see that the hibernating tenrecs, they do still have constant levels of tagged proteins. So they're maintaining those constant levels, they're still tagging them, and they're still degrading them. Now, typically hibernators, they exploit the cold, where they use the cold temperatures to depress their breakdowns of proteins. And the tenrec, it must continue to do that because it simply cannot control it. And in that graph on the left there, we also see that it doesn't matter if the tenrec is hibernating or if it's active. And that is really key here because that lends us to think that they live this life in the slow lane where they have slow processes. The process of making proteins, of degrading proteins, they're slow to begin with and they go even slower. And that's how they can have these energetic savings that's associated with hibernation. Thanks.
Thank you. In between slammers, we will provide 60 seconds for judges. Music will be playing. We'll now give our judges a minute to score.
Oh, Val, you're on mute.
That would help. Hello, Renee. I can see you. Everything looks great. I'm now going to turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Did you know, sorry, did you know that the amount of depleted uranium hexafluoride currently being stored in the US could nearly fill the Luxor Pyramid on Las Vegas Boulevard? This nuclear material is a waste product from years of uranium enrichment, which is one of the first steps in the fabrication of nuclear fuel. Continued storage of this material is potentially dangerous as it's stored in these aging barrels shown on the left-hand side of the screen. A leak into the environment would be catastrophic as this material is highly corrosive and volatile. And that is why conversion of this chemically unstable form of uranium into a more chemically stabilized form is the ideal. I will describe one process of accomplishing this to you today, which is my research. To start, we take the uranium hexafluoride, also called UF6, which is shown in picture 1. It's a white waxy solid that is kept in the secured bolted tubes inside of a glove box right here at UNLV. And we dissolve that into what's called ionic liquid, which is a viscous syrupy substance. And here is where the uranium actually becomes chemically stabilized or inert. And we can remove the uranium from the ionic liquid by just adding a tiny amount of water that sits at the top of the ionic liquid, which is shown in picture 2. Over the course of about 6 days, the water causes the uranium to form a green solid at the top of the ionic liquid, which is shown in picture 3. Now we can separate that solid from the liquid through vacuum filtration, which is picture 4. And the product that we end up with in picture 5 is known colloquially as green salt or uranium tetrafluoride or UF4. It's a chemically stabilized form of uranium. And not only is the conversion of UF6 beneficial in terms of storage, it's also beneficial as this green salt is a valuable resource that can now be reused as a nuclear fuel in advanced nuclear reactors. This is just one example of how nuclear waste components can be viewed not as waste, but as an asset that can be treated and repurposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. We will now give the judges a minute to score. Okay, we are ready for our next slammer. Arisha, I see you. Looks great. I will now turn it over to you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Arasia Filbert. I am a first semester graduate student, currently getting my master's in public health. The reason I state this is because I don't have any of my own research to present to you today, but I did want to go over why I picked maternal fetal health as my topic for my future research. It all starts with one statistic. Non-Hispanic, Black, or African American women are 3 times more likely than non-Hispanic white women to die during pregnancy, childbirth, or postpartum. The first time I ever heard this statistic was about 3 years ago in my women's health class. And ever since then, it has stuck with me. I feel like some people can sometimes disregard or separate themselves from statistics when they're not personal. This, however, very much has to do with everything that I am. A young Black woman who aspires to have a family of her own one day, but is 3 times more likely not to have that chance. After that women's health class, I knew that I wanted to be a part of decreasing this likelihood. The CDC and other researchers are not exactly sure as to why Black and African American women are dying at a greater rate, other than institutional and structural racism, which are defined as discrimination within or between organizations, as well as discrimination ingrained within society, respectfully. Their solution to this is for healthcare workers and providers to check their biases or to address different social issues that affect women's health. But what exactly does this look like? My plans for my future research are still in development, but I do want to provide a more concrete answer to the previous question by gathering data and information from different clinics and hospitals on Black and African American women who have given birth in the Vegas area. If y'all, the audience, meaning the judges or any of the participants, have any suggestions for me and my approach, I would very much appreciate it. But other than that, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We will now give the judges 1 minute for scoring. Okay, we are ready for our next slammer, Daphne. Okay, I see your video is working. I will now turn it over to you.
Those of us that have tried therapy know that it can be costly and time-consuming, especially since most of our problems are not able to be solved within a single 1-hour session. This issue is further exacerbated in couples therapy because there are now 2 distinct personalities and schedules that must be aligned in order to make progress. But what if there was a way to increase relationship satisfaction while still using less time, money, and energy? This is where biofield tuning comes in. Biofield tuning is a sound therapy that was developed by Eileen McCusick that involves the use of tuning forks on and around the body in order to detect and release areas of tension. Because a relatively unexplored topic such as this may raise skepticism, I've included a QR code that links to a published study that was done on biofield sciences and healing for further exploration. But briefly, the biofield is defined as a massless field that surrounds, permeates, and affects the body, and is also thought to hold information, including that of our lived experiences and trauma. The tension created in our biofield from these experiences is what we look to release in biofield tuning. If you take a look at the bottom left side of the screen, you will see some tools that have been specifically developed for this modality. Biofield tuning has been anecdotally reported by clients to have helped relieved emotional and physical symptoms without the need for extensive hours of conversation in order to achieve results. If you look over at the bottom right side of the screen, you will see the results of a feasibility study that was done earlier this year by Eileen and her colleagues on the effects of biofield tuning on anxiety. And the entire study is also included in the QR code for your interest. The study was performed on 13 subjects, which consisted of one 1-hour biofield tuning session for 3 weeks. And also they completed self-assessments on anxiety levels as well as use of negative words. The effects of the study actually showed that there was a significant decrease in anxiety and use of negative words by the end of the study. It's also important to note that the sessions were done completely remotely, as this was done during the COVID-19 pandemic. With the promising results of the feasibility study, I propose that it would be worthwhile to explore biofield tuning with couples therapy to see if it would correlate with an increased relationship satisfaction. And the top right side of my slide shows how I might conduct a study. Biofield tuning is typically done with individuals and even animals. However, we as practitioners are also taught to perform relationship sessions where we work on the biofield that spans the relationship timeline between two subjects in a session. So if it is shown that desired results can be consistently achieved by just simply performing these sessions, not only would time, money, and energy be saved, but we'd also be able to more efficiently target the underlying issues that couples may not realize are even affecting their dissatisfaction in their relationships. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now turn it over to our judges for 1 minute. Here, judges, you might see a score sheet for Ronnie, who is not able to be here during this session. So if you can just enter ones, so then that will bring you to Catherine's score sheet. Okay, Catherine, I see you on screen. I am now going to turn it over to you.
How many of you today are tuning in on a battery-powered laptop or personal device? In a mobile world with growing demand for electric vehicles and solar panels, there's never been a more exciting time to work in battery research. Before I explain my tiny slice of it, I want to give a speed summary of how a battery works. So on the left, we have a diagram of the key components of a rechargeable battery. On either side of the battery, we have electrodes, and those are going to release or consume charged particles or ions as part of the electrical circuit. The direction the ions flow depends on whether you're recharging your battery or you're discharging it to power your device. Between the electrodes, we have our electrolyte, and that's where my research comes in. The electrolyte facilitates chemical reactions at the electrode surface and carries ions from one side of the battery to the other as efficiently as possible. The speed these ions travel comes down to something we call the diffusion coefficient. Every electrolyte has a unique coefficient. And the higher it is, the faster your battery is going to charge and the longer life that battery is likely to have. So on the right, we have an instrument that our research group has been developing to measure key electrolyte properties using the phenomenon of light refraction. Two concentrations of the same electrolyte are layered up on top of each other inside a triangular quartz optical cell, and a laser beam passes through. I'm sure you've all witnessed the illusion of a straw dislocating at the surface of a cup of water. That is refraction, when light seems to bend as it hits something more dense than air. In our experiment, the laser beam refracts and changes direction as it leaves the optical cell. How much it deflects depends on the concentration of the solution in the region the laser beam is passing through. So as our two concentrations diffuse together and mix over time, our laser beam moves and its position is captured on a photodetector. The rate of change in position on the laser beam is used to calculate our diffusion coefficient. This method, unlike other methods, is universal to all liquid electrolytes. And we also see opportunity in the future to measure other electrolyte properties using the diffusion cell connected as a working battery. As you can see in the diagram, we already have a prototype which is wired and connects as a wider circuit. We see lots of opportunity for innovation in this field, and I'm excited to be part of the future of cleaner, better batteries. Thanks.
Thank you. We will now give a minute to the judges. Okay, we're ready for our next slammer. Camila, hello. I see you on screen.
Yes.
Perfect, I hear you. I will now turn it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Have you ever asked yourself, who am I? And if you have, I hope that you're continuing to engage in this work of identifying who you are and how you became the person that you are. My name is Camila Bywaters. I'm a fourth year doctoral student, and I study teacher narratives and teacher identity. I am currently a special education teacher, a licensed special education teacher, and an educational advocate. I study teacher identity because I believe that it is important for teachers to understand who they are, how do they come to believe the ideologies and the thoughts that they have because of the students that they work with. It is important that teachers understand who they are because they are in a position to influence the students that they work with. They are in a powerful position to destroy or help to support students on their educational journey. My central research question for teachers is to answer the question, who am I? I analyze this through several theoretical frameworks, identity theory, where I will have teachers to think about how do they construct their identity, intersectionality. I will ask teachers to think about what multiple identities have helped to structure who they are. And finally, critical race theory. I would like for teachers to think about race and racism and how that has impacted their identity. I will also analyze this work from a qualitative perspective, specifically utilizing narrative research. I will analyze the specific themes and codes that come up that show some of my theoretical lens. In one study, of employees who did identity work, who worked in a manufacturing facility, the scholars found that the employees wrote their narratives and identified themselves through the relationships that they held. This work is extremely important, not only for teachers, but across disciplines, because we need teachers and doctors and lawyers and chemists and physicists to think about who they are, think about their identity, think about the ideologies that shape who they are, so that they can be the good people that we need in this world. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We will now give the judges 1 minute. Okay, next up we have Fernando. All right, I see you. Video working great. I will now turn it over to you.
Hello, I'm Fernando Lisa, and today we're going to talk about how we can get Ruby the help she needs when she needs it. Ruby is a child who, instead of being a child, is preoccupied with the management of her symptoms. And unfortunately, that's the case for a lot of children with neurodevelopmental disorders. Disorders like Rett syndrome are often paired with intellectual disability, lots of trips to the hospital, and increased rates of epileptic activity, which can be fatal in these younger ages. Part of the problem is that we don't have a diagnosis, or we don't know there's a problem until PND 65 in mouse models, which translate to about 18 years in humans, which is way too late. We propose to use younger ages by utilizing the habituation to an open field maze to try and get a peek at how the brain is developing. So that way we know how to raise flags, or we know when to raise flags rather, to ask questions about when a child might need further help. If you look at B, we can see that there isn't much of a difference between the paths or exploration of the open field maze at PND 30 from the first and the last 5 minutes. And then just 8 days later, we see that there's a significant decrease in the amount of lines that you see in those squares, indicating that the exploration has gone down from the first and the last 5 minutes within the session of the open field maze. In C, we can see that the green line is pretty consistent in the rate of exploration throughout the whole hour, implying that the mouse perceives the maze as a novel experience throughout, which indicates that it isn't quite capable of understanding that it's explored this area before. And then in the orange line, we see that there's a development of this nice habituation curve in distance traveled throughout the hour, which implies that the mouse is no longer perceiving the maze to be a novel stimulus, and that indicates that it's able to understand that it's been in this situation before. We hope to extrapolate these findings to use this as a model for screening for neurodevelopmental disorders. That way we know that we can ask questions a lot earlier in age. These ages 30 to 38 are still in the developmental time period, which is at a key point in the brain's development where the brain is still making new synapses and new connections. And we hope to use this to make more successful interventions. That way, Ruby can get the help that she needs at an earlier age, and we can have later screens for these interventions. Thank you.
Thank you. And Fernando was our last slammer for this session. Thank you all so much for joining us for our preliminary round. A special thank you to the Grad Academy team who made this 3MT event possible. Now, just stay tuned. We'll announce winners live in the next few minutes. Judges, please be sure to hit submit at the bottom of your scoring rubric form. And we'll play some music while we get those scores tallied, and I'll be right back. Hello, judges. We are waiting on 3 more of you just to hit submit on your scoring rubric. If you have any questions about it, just let us know in the chat.
Valerie, I did put something in the chat, just so you know. I sent it only to the host.
Okay, great. I'll make sure they have yours. Thank you.
I have a problem though. I don't think that the order that I either missed somebody or something else happened. I completed each rubric in a row, but I still have one left, and I don't know who I missed or skipped. So I'm confused. I probably put in the wrong scores for people because I still have one rubric left over, and I thought that I just submitted my last one. So somewhere along the way, I either missed somebody or something's out of order on the list that was put in the chat.
Okay, so Ronnie number 5 didn't present, so maybe that threw it off, but
that's the issue, is that I submitted for I submitted for Ronnie, and so I ended up with one less, but so I haven't submitted for Fernando. So I need to make my score for Ronnie for Catherine, my score for Catherine for Camila, and my score.
Yes.
We can push that over.
Yep.
So if you'll just hit, if you'll hit ones for Fernando, then what we'll do is shift the scores down.
Okay, thanks.
It's an easy solution from the back end for us.
So what should I put in for Fernando? Just
For
one?
Fernando, you'll put all ones, because then from number 5, we will shift them down.
Thank you. I'm sorry about that.
No need to apologize.
Okay, and welcome back. While only the top 3 winners of this round will progress to the semifinals, you will all be winners of a Rebel Grad Slam t-shirt that you can get during the Rebel Grad Slam finals reception, which is this Friday. And I have information I will post in the chat here. A reminder for the preliminary rounds, there are 3 scholarships that we hand out. So the first place winner will receive a $300 scholarship. The second place winner will receive a $200 scholarship. And the third place winner will receive a $100 scholarship. Are you ready? I am ready to announce the winners of this preliminary session. In third place, we have Camila. In second place, we have Daphne. And in first place, we have Catherine. Thank you again for your participation, everyone, and congratulations to our top 3 winners. Please join us for the semifinal rounds on Thursday, November 30th. We have sessions at 9 a.m., 11 a.m., and at 1:30, and it will be hosted in the Student Union Philip J. Cohen Theater. The finals will be held on Friday, December 1st at 4 p.m. in the Greenspun Auditorium. Lastly, we'll have your Rebel Grad Slam t-shirt available at the finals reception at 5 p.m. in the Greenspun lobby. We welcome you to RSVP for the finals, and let me put that link here in the chat. Again, thank you everybody for participation. Thank you to our judges. We're so grateful for an amazing session. We hope you will join us at semifinals and finals. And if you have any questions, just let our team know, and have a great day.